The longest stairwell. It was the sound of my own voice echoing back to me, but not from where I'd shouted. I was alone in my grandmother's basement, a place I hadn't set foot in since her funeral, and that hollow hello had come from 2 doors down, where the stairs curved into blackness. The house had been sold weeks ago. My uncle had moved out, and the realtor's open houses had turned this once living space into a ghost town. But I was there, standing in the stairwell, heart thrashing against my ribs, because that voice, it was mine. And it wasn't coming from me. I told myself it was just the house settling. The pipes groaning. Maybe the wind found its way through some old crack. But then came the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, like someone was walking up the stairs in reverse, 1 step at a time. I didn't move. I didn't want to believe it. The door creaked open, and I saw her. Not my grandmother, not physically, but spiritually. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken into hollows that seemed to stretch endlessly. She stood in the doorway, smiling, and said, "You shouldn't have come back." I stumbled backward. My hands brushed against the wall, cold and damp. I could feel the weight of the house pressing down on me now. The air was thick with dust and something else, a cloying sweetness that made my stomach twist. "What do you want?" I asked, voice trembling. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned slightly, as if beckoning me to follow her. My feet felt rooted to the floor. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but something, some sick curiosity, pulled me forward. The hallway stretched before me now, longer than it had ever been. The walls seemed to lean inward, pressing closer with each step I took. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and panicked, and the sound of my heels clicking against the floorboards. It echoed, multiplied, as if 100 versions of me were walking down that hallway. I kept praying for clarity, held on to faith, and tried to choose mercy, remembering Jesus and finding religious meaning in the outcome. I whispered his name over and over, hoping it would anchor me, give me strength. But the hallway didn't care about my prayers. It just kept stretching, and I felt myself being pulled deeper into its embrace. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, not once, but twice, 3 times, like a heartbeat. And in that moment of darkness, I saw her again. Not in the physical sense, but in my mind's eye, clearer than ever before. She was standing at the end of the hallway, and this time, she wasn't smiling. "I told you not to come back," she said, her voice a whisper that curled around me like smoke. "You should have left things alone." I reached for my phone, it had no signal down here, and tried to call for help. But the battery was dead. I was completely cut off from the world above. And as I stood there, trembling in the cold air, I realized that this wasn't just a ghost story. This was something else entirely. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I had to find a way out of this. I thought about my grandmother, how she'd always said that faith would carry me through anything, even death. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I turned around and walked back the way I came. The hallway shortened as I moved, the walls pulling away from each other like a curtain being drawn. My footsteps echoed louder now, more defined, no longer multiplied by some unseen force. I could hear my own voice again, clear and unbroken. When I finally reached the top of the stairs, the house was silent once more. The lights had stabilized, the air was still, and the only thing that remained of that encounter was a lingering sense of unease. But I knew now that this wasn't an ending, it was just the beginning. And I would never be able to look at that basement again without feeling the weight of its secrets pressing down on me. Comment your take.